Now, some social activities will be allowed to resume, with limits, as Singapore's circuit breaker comes to an end on the 1st of June. These include selected social activities such as visiting senior parents and places of worship. Cheryl Goh is still with us. Let's get her back for more on this. Cheryl, what are some of the restrictions being relaxed as the circuit breaker ends?
Well, Steve, yes, with the circuit breaker ending, the thing is we can't expect life to return to normal immediately. There will be some activities that are allowed to resume, and that's because there is a light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to managing the outbreak. Community cases are down to single digits in the past week, and the dormitory situation has also stabilized. Large clusters in the dorms have not spread to the wider community. And among the relaxations, like you said, households will be allowed to visit their parents and grandparents if they're not staying together. And this will be allowed once a day, limited to 2 persons per visit. However, it's important to note that to protect seniors who are still more vulnerable to the infection, they should still stay home and let their children or grandchildren come to them.
So, Cheryl, they can't leave then. So most seniors will not be able to leave.
Well, they are still encouraged to stay home, but senior activity centres will gradually resume some activities, of course, in a safe and controlled manner. And activities that will be held at these centres will be done so in small groups. And this is really to address the psychosocial well-being of seniors, especially those with little or no support. Elsewhere, some healthcare services such as specialist outpatient services and medical procedures will also be allowed to resume, and they will be prioritized by healthcare providers based on medical necessity and available capacity. Examples are surgeries for advanced cataracts and preventative health services such as flu vaccinations. However, Health Minister Gan Kim Yong, he did warn that more activities and interactions could also mean that we are likely to see a rise in new community cases.
This will be done in phases to reduce the risk of a second wave of cases of infections, as many countries have experienced after they have lifted their control measures. As we begin to resume more activities, we do expect us to see a rise in daily new cases. The key is to detect these cases and contain them quickly so as to prevent a sharp rise in the number of cases or the emergence of a large cluster.
And what are the plans then when it comes to transport and travel?
So authorities are preparing to ensure that public transport remains safe, and this is especially so as more people will leave their homes as they return to work and school and to visit their loved ones. Employers also need to do their part by having staggered hours, and this is to ease the commuter load during peak hours. The task force did acknowledge that it may be difficult to maintain physical distancing during peak periods on public transport, especially on selected routes, so there's a need for other safe management measures.
And that will include wearing of masks and requiring commuters not to speak to one another or to speak on the phone, so that they avoid spreading droplets while they are in an enclosed space, and we can keep public transport safe during this period.
Meanwhile, international travel will also gradually resume for instances such as essential business travel, although no specific timeline was given.
And Cheryl, we also understand that there are also updates for religious activities.
Yes, that's right, Steve. So places of worship for all faiths will also be allowed to reopen on 2nd June, though this is only for private worship and devotion. So that means that there will be no mass gatherings or mass congregations of any kind. And there is also a limit in terms of the number of members. So only 5 members of the same household will be allowed to visit these places of worship at any one time.
I know Singaporeans will be disappointed. Many have been hoping that with the end of the circuit breaker, they will be able to go out freely, to socialize with their friends, to meet their families and relatives, and even dine together. Unfortunately, all of these activities will have to wait.
The task force is seeking the public's understanding on why this is necessary, adding that restrictions must be lifted in a careful and calibrated manner, and this is really so as to not risk a flaring up of the virus again, or to sacrifice the efforts that really all of us have made over the past weeks of the circuit breaker. It's back to you guys.
All right, thanks very much, Cheryl, with updates there on the COVID-19 pandemic.